Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the mysterious and magical topic of walk-in souls. In this video, we're going to discuss what a walk-in is, as well as some of the signs that you may be one. So you may be discovering this video and have no idea what I'm talking about, in which case this will be an interesting journey for you. You may have heard of walk-in souls before and have searched this topic because you are simply curious and you want to learn more. Or you may suspect that you are a walk-in. And if that is the case, then I hope that this video is helpful for you. And I hope that it helps to confirm some of your own intuition or questions and bring you a little bit of peace of mind. Now, as we get going here, I want to clarify that when we're discussing walk-in souls in this video, what we're discussing is contracted agreements between two or more souls. And I'm emphasizing that because there are multiple experiences that could be classified as a walk-in that we're not going to be covering in this video, because I do believe that while they are similar, to me, they are different things. So one of these things that is not the type of walk-in that I'm going to be discussing today is this energy of possession or entity attachment. Now, when people are experiencing entity attachments, and most of us have them, entity removal is one of the things that I practice. If you do believe that you are dealing with this, please reach out to me. We can set up a session so that I can assist you with the help of your higher self in releasing some of these entities and energies. We all carry some of these around with us. It's simply one of the facts of being within this dimension. Our ego density is a matching density to a lot of these entities and these energies, and all the traumas and all the different things that we go through create windows for them attached. A lot of times I explain entities kind of like fleas on a dog. Every once in a while, though, you get one that is particularly powerful and has a particular hold over a person. And that's when we look at the more uncomfortable aspects of that and what most people would classify as possession. That is not a soul contract most of the time. Typically, that is sort of an invasion of the body. Yes, there was some type of consent at some point, but the person may not have recognized or realized what they were doing. So that's a whole different sack of potatoes right there, I guess we could say. That's not going to be the topic of this video. Another type of experience similar to a walk-in that we're not going to be covering either has to do with braided souls. And this idea of a braided soul is when in another lifetime, two souls perform a ritual. Typically, it involves the sharing of blood. And when this is done, they essentially bond their souls together. And from that point forward, working and operating from the perspective of linear time, that is, they incarnate together in the same body. So that is another type of really wild experience, I am sure, that we are not going to be covering in this video. I also want to say right off the bat that I am not a mental health professional. A lot of these situations, especially the two that we're not covering, but that we did touch on just now, can masquerade as different mental health issues. And when we're working with this awakening process, there is really a fine line between what is an actual genuine mental health diagnosis and what is the awakening process or sort of a symptom of some of these other energies. So I always recommend seeking out professional help if you feel that you need that. This video is meant to be simply supplemental information or material. But yes, you can imagine with these entity attachments and these braided souls and different things like that, all the different ways that that energy could be perceived. The walk-in experience in and of itself typically only involves one soul in the body. Typically, it's a swapping out of energies, although sometimes there are multiple souls that stay within the body and are operating within that vessel at the same time. If anybody out there believes that they're having that experience, I actually know one person who does believe that they are having this experience. And they manage it pretty well. It's a lot of high vibrational souls up in there doing their thing and somehow seeming to integrate together very well. So maybe at some point I'll ask them if they want to talk and speak on that, because I think people would probably find that really fascinating. For the most part, though, like my intuition is telling me that souls kind of stay away from that particular experience because it can be very confusing for the person if they're aware of these other souls operating. Although we're not always aware of this. There are people who are walk-ins who have no idea that they are a walk-in. And there are a lot of people who are becoming aware of this because of some of the factors that we're going to be discussing as we continue to move forward with this video. We're also going to be discussing another somewhat rare phenomenon that has become less rare as we move through the ascension. And that is the phenomenon of twin flames. So both walk-ins and twin flames are energies that used to not happen all that often on this planet, but are happening more and more frequently as the ascension gains steam, so to speak, because there is such a need for these high vibrational souls on this planet. So we're going to get more into that. We're going to talk about what the connection between twin flames and walk-ins is later on in this video. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Also, if you're enjoying this, make sure that you subscribe so that you can catch more videos. We live stream every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a really beautiful community here. And don't forget to hit that like button, please, whether you are returning or you are new. Pause this video right now. Go ahead and do that if you are feeling generous, just so you don't forget, because it really, really does help the channel to grow. So on this video, we're going to be discussing actually 3 main types of walk-ins. And the first 2 that we're going to be discussing have to do with a soul contract between 2 different souls. The third one is actually within our own higher selves, and we'll get into that a little bit later here. So when it comes to the contracts between 2 souls, we have a couple different ways that this works. The first way that this energy works is where there is a contract created before this lifetime begins, where essentially the souls agree, all right, I'm going to inhabit the body for X many years. And then you're going to come in and we're essentially going to swap out and you're going to inhabit the body for this many years. So it's a plan is created ahead of time that this is what's going to happen and this is what is going to transpire during the lifetime. Now, there's also the type of walk-in that happens when the contract is created during the lifetime. Typically, this happens when a soul has decided that it wants to take on a certain amount of experiences within this lifetime in order to grow exponentially. And unfortunately, the amount of experiences and hardships or challenges that they've taken on is a bit more than what they can handle. And so this soul, or this the human or the ego density of the soul, I suppose we could say, because the soul itself is never depressed or anything like this. The soul is pure light. It is pure love, light energy. However, the human and the vessel that this soul is inhabiting is very depressed, and they are thinking about taking their own life. And so on the higher realms, their higher self sends out the SOS and they say, I need some help. I need some assistance here. I don't want to experience the taking of the life, because when that happens, we have to repeat the lifetime. And it's generally, from everything that I've intuited and everything that I've read and understood so far along in my own spiritual journey, when we do take our own life, it is a real, I don't want to say that it's looked down upon, because there's no judgment as we move into the higher dimensions of consciousness, but it's considered a very sad thing, a very unfortunate thing, and it's not something that we're aiming for. I guess you could put it that way. It's a very disappointing end to a life. It's never planned. It's never in the soul contract or the decision before the lifetime. And I want to stop and pause here for a minute for those who are new to these concepts to explain a little bit of what I mean. And so during this video, we're operating under the premise that we plan out our lifetimes before we incarnate. We choose the experiences that we're going to have. We choose the other souls that we're going to interact with, because we have certain lessons that we want to learn. We have certain collective and individual karma that we're looking to clear through learning and internalizing the lessons, taking responsibility for our energy, and then moving on and gaining that wisdom, gaining those, the understanding and the practical application of those virtues gained through those experiences. So we script everything out to a certain extent before we get here. And yes, we do have free will. And so when we come down here and we forget forget who we are. It sometimes gets a little rocky, and we may not accomplish everything we aimed to accomplish on a soul level before we incarnated. We have little signposts, little synchronicities, little things along the way to kind of nudge us in the right direction. But it's essentially all bets are off once we get down here. And so there are active lifetimes where souls come and they decide, I really want to grow exponentially in this lifetime. I'm going to take on a lot of karma. I'm going to take on a lot of lessons and experiences to really challenge me, to push me, to grow and evolve. Like we said, exponentially in this lifetime. Sometimes they have what's called a resting life, where we've done so much work in previous lives that we're just like, I just want to coast. I just want to be here and experience some harmony, connect with some soulmates. Obviously, there's still going to be challenges and things that arise because this is the third dimension. That's the name of the game here. But we're not purposely making it difficult on ourselves as we do in some other lifetimes. So that's the idea and the premise here is we come into this lifetime. This is a very ambitious soul that ends up being involved in one of these walk-in arrangements, because once they get down here, it's simply too much. There are too many factors. There's too much going on. The energy is too heavy. And so they feel the need to leave, to go back, to receive healing, to sort of recuperate. And then perhaps like what the download that I'm getting is to analyze and decide like, okay, that was too much for me. Maybe I'll take on a little less. Maybe I'll take on A, B, and C instead of A, B, C, D, E, F, G when I go down next time to make it a bit easier on me. So this is the idea. This is what's going on in the spiritual realms. They're saying, hey, does somebody want to come in here and complete this lifetime so that this isn't, so that this body carries on? And there's also a completion. And this is something that I found really fascinating when I was digging in with my own intuition. And to preface this, I'll say that the information that I'm sharing with everybody comes from a variety of sources. It comes from my own research online, on different platforms, different things that clients have said during sessions when we do regressions, when we talk to their soul, just conversations that I've had with people, and my own intuition. And so my own intuition and guidance was sort of showing me this process that occurs when we have one of these types of walk-ins, because as we said, we script everything out before we get here. And so all the players in our lifetime are very interconnected. And what this means is that it's not just if we leave a body early, our soul, that body is still involved in soul contracts with other souls, right? Our soul meant to connect with certain people so that they could have certain experiences, so that they could grow in certain ways. There's a lot that's going on here beyond just our individual soul. And so a lot more people are affected when we decide to transition and a new soul comes into the body, because when a walk-in happens, it's a brand new soul. So there's still going to be, because they're working with the energetic residue, they're working with some of the chakras and the energy systems of the old soul. It's very challenging being a walk-in, because when you incarnate into a body from the very beginning, you condition that body. The soul begins conditioning that body before they fully enter into it during the early months of pregnancy. They come and go. They're kind of like, it's sort of like nesting. In a sense, right? They're getting used to the body. They're getting used to the biology. They're getting used to the brain chemistry. They're getting used to all of these different things. And they're imprinting their energy upon this vessel. And so when a new soul comes into a body that's already been imprinted, it's kind of like if you think about a pair of shoes and how you wear the shoes for a little bit of time. And once you've done that, they conform to your feet. Imagine stepping into somebody else's orthopedic or Tempur-Pedic shoes that have already conformed to their foot. That's kind of what it's like when a walk-in comes into a body. So it's its own challenge in that specific regard. And on top of that, then they have to contend with all of the soul contracts from that previous soul. And so the way that I was shown this was the soul contracts that are able to, sometimes a soul comes in and they just take over the life. And they fulfill that soul's soul contracts, and they get to have their own experiences. So ideally, a soul who had similar lessons to learn would incarnate into that body. And what Spirit's showing me is that if you're one of these types of walk-ins, then you might recognize or notice that you feel like none of the people in your life are actually like connected to you. And what I mean by that is like a lot of times when we meet people, we just automatically know they're kindred spirits, right? We know that we've known them in past lifetimes. We tend to travel in circles with the same souls. And so for a walk-in who's come into somebody else's life to finish out their soul contracts and live out their life, it's going to feel very different than that. They're going to feel very alien within all of the family interactions, within all of the friendships, within all of these things. And this will happen to any extent with any type of walk-in. Not just the case that we're discussing here and the specifics that we're discussing here. But this is sort of the energy is they come in and they're just like, none of these people feel like my people. You know what I mean? And when the soul comes in, there are obviously going to be situations where new souls that are part of their soul tribe are like activated. And it's like, hey, this person's in the game now. So maybe some things start switching. They draw each other to them. They meet their soul. So they may meet more of their soul family later. But when they first drop into the life, everyone's going to feel pretty foreign for the most part, unless this is a soul from that same oversoul as the soul and from that same soul group, in which case it's going to feel a lot more fluid. And so this, I'm sensing as we're discussing this, is what's more favored in the spiritual realms. Unless the soul coming in wants to have the challenges and the experience of not knowing anybody and not feeling connected to anybody. So there's a lot of different variables to this. Now, there are other types of scenarios as well. So one of the terms that a lot of people throw around for the type of walk-in I'm about to describe is the starseed walk-in. And this is becoming much more prevalent because of the energies on this planet and how they are amplifying and where we're at in terms of the ascension. We need more high vibrational beings. We need beings of elevated consciousness and awareness incarnating into this planet to assist this planet at this time. And so there are some very advanced souls who are contracting to walk in. And this isn't just happening for those souls who are on the verge of taking their lives within that physical body and in those SOS emergency situations where they've simply given up. This is happening in all different ways. And this is happening with souls who are living resting lives, who recognize the need and the amount of souls trying to get onto this planet right now and the need for those high vibrational souls, and says, you know what? I've had a good run. I experienced a lot of beauty in this lifetime. I'm ready to release this vessel so that another soul can come in who has a strong mission here. So that is happening. There's lots of unexpected instances like this. And Spirit's saying this is happening a lot too. Like I was getting the vision of somebody in a coma. So people who are in comas, and this is one of the signs that you are a walk-in, is actually having a near-death experience. This is a big time when these souls, when these energies swap. Sometimes it takes a surge of energy like that in order for this transfer to happen a lot of times. Another type of walk-in that we are covering in this video, and this one is becoming more and more common as well. This is a really beautiful type of walk-in. This is the walk-in from your own higher self. And this happens naturally as we continue to progress spiritually. When we first come into this body and into this density, we are not able to hold the totality of our energy within this vessel, right? It's just not possible. Only a fraction of our soul's essence or energy is able to incarnate within this physical vessel. As the planet has raised in frequency, it is able to house higher and higher vibrational souls. And this is why we see higher and higher vibrational souls incarnating on this planet. It also means that our own higher selves are able to incorporate and integrate more within our bodies, particularly when we do the spiritual work, when we release the ego conditioning, when we release our trauma, when we essentially make more space within our vessels. We are able to receive more downloads from our higher selves. And some people like me ask for this, specifically call upon our higher selves, ask to merge with them, ask to have more of their light, their love light, their frequency, their consciousness downloaded into the vessel. And some people don't consciously ask, but the work that they're doing is asking for that. Some people as well, it is simply needed. Some people get to a point in their spiritual journey where they cannot achieve what they came here to achieve without more of their higher self's energy to assist them. Maybe it's a pattern that they're just having a lot of difficulty breaking and like a place where they're stuck, or a place where they're scared, they're being spiritually intimidated, they're just really wandering off track, but they have a really strong mission and a really strong purpose for being here. Not that we don't all have one, but we all have different missions and different roles that we play. And so because of that, more of the higher self downloads within the physical vessel in order to assist them in having that breakthrough or rerouting them along the path and the trajectory that's meant for them in this lifetime. So that's kind of its own type of SOS. But instead of another soul coming in and swapping out, more of the own higher self's light integrates within the vessel. And this tends to, for the most part, be a very gentle, gradual process. For some people, it is pretty immediate, to the point where people who are conscious of this will quite literally refer to themselves as different people. Or like in my specific case, it's more of a gentle thing where it's just, as I look back, I feel totally disconnected from the versions of myself that I've been before, like I'm looking at somebody else's life. And it's not like an unhealthy type of disassociation, like a trauma response. It's simply like there's not the emotional connection. It's like I'm watching a story and I'm reading a storybook, and there are certain parts that I like to replay in my mind. I'm working on this releasing and letting go of the past, but there's not the energetic attachment or the identification with it anymore. And I think this is a natural part of spiritual growth as well. So that's one sign that you've had a walk-in from your own higher self, or any kind of walk-in, I guess, right? Is just like remembering your past, but not relating or connecting to it anymore. And also maybe not relating or connecting to the people from your past. So I think this is a really good time to go into the signs that you might be a walk-in, since this is kind of the area or the terrain that we are beginning to tread. So that's one of the first ones right there, is that sense of disconnection. Like you remember people from your life, but you don't necessarily feel connected to them emotionally at all. They might tell you stories where it seems like you were very deeply connected. You might look at pictures and you can tell that there's like a genuine love there. And it's not that you don't love them necessarily. It's just that like you don't feel what they feel, or what they are sort of like projecting or imagining or assuming that you would feel. So that's a big signpost right there. It's also just simple things like having different tastes, all of a sudden realizing that you don't like to eat the same foods anymore, all of a sudden realizing that you don't like the same music, you dress different, all of a sudden your style changes, your preferences, your way of viewing the world. It's like you haven't done any specific work around shifting that, but all of a sudden it's like you just view things differently, and you might not even realize that you do, because it's just you being you. But friends and people around you might be like, you've never said stuff like that before. Or, wow, that's a real 180 that you've done there. You know, it's like you notice from the people around you that the reactions to you are different. And that's a sign in and of itself, just that people are reacting to you differently than they have. And there's no precursor for that. You're not really understanding why that would be. And that's also just a symptom that your vibration has shifted, right? So it's like you see all the nuances here. I'm just trying to give you guys some of the basic tips here. One of the biggest things, like anything, it can be equated to a lot of different things. Because remember, not all walk-ins, most walk-ins don't remember that they are a walk-in. Some walk-ins, particularly the ones with a very strong spiritual mission, do recognize that. They do know that. And that is actually another sign that you are a walk-in, is just that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems, you are very driven. You have a very strong focus, a very strong purpose. It's like you may have, like the old you may have kind of been drifting through life, not really known where they belonged or what they really wanted, still trying to figure themselves out. And then all of a sudden you feel this really strong established sense of purpose. You know the direction that you're meant to move in, and you are like ready to go. That, especially for those walk-ins who have that specific mission, that is a big part of that energy there. And I want to say before we continue with the signs, and I'm sorry that I'm all over the place, it's just how it goes sometimes when you're like giving information, but you're also channeling, is there was this energy when we're talking about, oh crap, now I'm going to give me a second to remember what I was just about to say. Okay. It was about soul contracts. So we talked about how a lot of times walk-ins will come in and they'll just continue living out the life. So another thing that happens sometimes when they have this strong mission, and that's what reminded me, is the ones that come in with this strong mission. They have other things that they're here to accomplish. So what will happen is the soul contracts that they're able to fulfill that were previous from the previous occupant of the body, they will fulfill, but also other soul contracts will get reassigned to new souls within that soul group. So new people will be called in, and they'll kind of pick up the slack for the other lessons and the things that these souls need to learn, so that the high level walk-in that's now come in, the starseed walk-in, whatever you want to call them, can focus on their particular mission, whatever that particular mission is for them. So that sense of like clarity and purpose out of nowhere is a big sign that you are one of these high vibrational walk-ins with this powerful mission that you are here to partake in, to whatever the words, I don't know. Sometimes words fail me when I get going like this. So we're just going to continue. As we said earlier, one of the big signs is a near-death experience. If you have had a near-death experience and then you feel completely different afterwards, you may be either a completely different soul, or you may be a higher octave, we'll say, of your own higher self. And like we said, comas is a big time when this happens. And that's when the soul is kind of like nesting. That I used the term nesting earlier. We're going to continue going with that term. It's acclimating to the body. It's weaving its energy, because you can think about it like a soul is energy. The body is energy. Everything is energy. The body, of course, is denser energy, and we have many different types of energy bodies. All right. And so the soul has to weave into all of those and connect into all of those bodies of energy. So it's a very intense process for the soul. It's very involved. And you could notice this. It might be similar to ascension symptoms, but one of the really interesting things about this is, even though there might be like minor kind of inconveniences as the soul is integrating into the body, overall, you're probably going to be a lot healthier, because there's a brand new soul coming in who's not weighed down by all of the conditioned BS that particular soul was conditioned from childhood. So some people can have miraculous healings happen, where perhaps you have a new death experience and then you wake up and you're way healthier than you were. Or some people, it's for where there wasn't a near-death experience, at least that they're aware of, and they just go to sleep and then they wake up one day feeling refreshed and brand new. And all of a sudden, like, miraculous healings are occurring. And that's because of the high vibrational energy of the new soul that is integrating within the body. Like we said, that is not as weighed down by all of the stresses and all of the things that the other soul was. So even though the body may have some wear and tear, the soul essence, that energy that is downloading into it, is still so high vibrational that it's lifting the whole vibration of the body, and it's beginning to heal physical issues. So that's a really powerful and profound thing that can happen and can be a sign of a walk-in. And like I said, I mentioned comas, but it doesn't have to be a near-death experience that puts you in a coma. It can be any type of near-death experience that happens. That's a big time where these energies are swapping. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Memory loss. This is really interesting, or missing time. This can be another symptom that this new soul is integrating within the body. During this integration process, there's a lot of things that are going on a biological and a physiological level, as well as an energy level. So you can have blackouts. You can have time where all of a sudden it was 11 in the morning and you look at the clock again and it's 3 in the afternoon and you have no idea where that time went or what happened. And obviously, if some of these things are happening to you, I am not a doctor, and there are, I mentioned how some of these symptoms, especially when there's multiple walk-ins and entity energies and braided souls, that they can exhibit as certain mental health conditions. Remember, I'm not a doctor, mental health or otherwise. So if you're having any of these symptoms or issues, you want to talk to a doctor, a psychiatrist. You want to make sure that you're not just taking something somebody says on the internet and rolling with it. You want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and that you are safe. However, I am saying that this is something that does happen. during this process as well. So if you're not drinking, if you've never had any mental health issues, this is not something that's ever happened to you before, you're feeling relatively stable, except for the fact that you're having some of these blackouts of time, this could be why, especially if you're resonating with more of the stuff that I'm talking about. This is simply giving you another option to kind of mull over with the proper professional assistance as well. All right, so we're going to caveat it by saying that. But yeah, that is that's just the integration of the new energies and the new frequencies within the vessel. We talked about personality changes, liking different foods, different perspectives, different approaches to life. Also, this is anything, right? So it could be the way you spend money, the way you relate to people, the types of people that you're drawn or attracted to, the types of situations, like we said, music, food, all of these different things. You could notice a lot of these things shifting and changing. Things you used to care a lot about, now you really could not care less because other things are preoccupying your time or your energy. You also could be feeling extremely fatigued, even though there is this miraculous healing that happens sometimes with a walk-in. There also can be periods of fatigue. Like we said, there can be some types of ascension-like symptoms as all of this energy is integrating. So just really support yourself as much as possible and your body, and try to find somebody that you can talk to. Obviously, this is one of those things that's a little bit more out there, especially to the average Jill or Joe. So you may not have people in your direct reality that you're able to talk to, but online, you can go in forums, you can join the chat group on here. I'm sure lots of people would, because people are so fascinated by this topic, I'm sure there are tons of people within this tribe who would love to be of support. And of course, if you want any assistance from me, integrating, there's different energy healing modalities and different things that I do, as well as coaching that can absolutely help give you that support as you're moving through this process, because it can be extremely stressful. Right? Because it's like all of a sudden you became a brand new person. And so you're trying to figure that out. You're trying to navigate that. And we all experience this to different levels throughout our spiritual awakening. Like I said, the gradual integrating of more of our higher selves energy is really, really common at this point. It's happening for a lot of us. So it's we're all experiencing this to different levels. Every time we experience an ego death, we experience some of this to a certain extent, right? But this is where it's a bit more extreme. And so anywhere that you can find that support, it definitely would be worthwhile to do that. And to just know, like, hopefully this video will find some people who are navigating some of this and just give you that little bit of reassurance that you're not crazy, that you're going to be all right. And that something really powerful and profound is happening to you right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, so the last thing is that we sometimes end up with new gifts and abilities coming online. And I said sometimes, but I would say this is more often than not, right? Because that new soul has its own gifts, its own abilities. So you may recognize that all of a sudden you're really drawn to, or you're really good at things that maybe you weren't good at before, like drawing or painting or writing or photography or singing, dancing, any of these things. You might also find different psychic gifts activating. And that's all part of what that soul is bringing through and bringing online, particularly if you are one of these starseed walk-ins, one of these high vibrational souls with this strong mission. The gifts that you need in order to fulfill your mission are going to be activating. So that can be very overwhelming as well, particularly if you weren't particularly psychically open. Particularly psychically. It was a mouthful to say. Open. Before this, that can be a lot when those gifts and abilities start coming online. So this could be anything. You're probably going to notice lots of number synchronicities and stuff like this as well. But you might notice that your clairsentience, your clairaudience, these different gifts are picking up. It could be subtle at first, like you're hearing frequencies, or you're So like people whose clairaudience is really picking up, you may even hear voices or be getting communications, and you can set boundaries around that. If that is freaking you out, begin to set boundaries around that energy. Like, I do consent to this. I do not consent to this. You need to back off. I need to be given some time for this to progress. All right. And once again, seek out the proper support system in that process. You may notice your dreams activating. That's a big thing for some. Spirit's saying two things: either not dreaming at all, or your dreams really powerfully activating. And when you're not dreaming at all, this is because there's high level integration happening during your sleep. And just a lot of interaction, I feel, between the old soul and the new soul, which is interesting. Kind of like they're sharing facts, figures, and information and assisting in the integration process during sleep. Or you could have very active dreams because those psychic senses, that pineal gland is activating. And there's a lot that's being shown, and that's the way the activation process is going. So there's lots of different ways, and Spirit's showing me that it's different from soul to soul as to how you are activated and how you integrate these energies specifically. There is one more aspect of the walk-in experience that I would like to share with everybody today. And I alluded to this at the beginning of the video, and this is connected in with the understanding or the concept of twin flames. Now, during this particular type of walk-in experience, we are going to have people's divine counterparts walking into bodies in order to come into divine union with them. This is something that came through during the last Patreon call, or one of the last Patreon calls that we had. And for anybody who wants to join the Patreon, all the information for that is in the description box below. So this is really powerful when this came through, and it confirmed a reading that I had done with somebody a little bit earlier, where some of these concepts and energies had begun to poke through. So it was kind of like bringing this idea, flushing this out and bringing this into completion, which was really exciting. And so the way that this is going to work, as far as what I've been shown, is that when we get to a certain point along this ascension window, it feels to me as though it's going to be like a mass wave of this happening, although it's probably going to happen in multiple waves, just like the awakening process, just like the waves of volunteers for all of you who are familiar with that energy. And if you're not, I'll link a video about that at the end of this one as well, talking about the 3 waves of starseed volunteers that came here to assist in this awakening process, this ascension process on this planet. So the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm seeing it in multiple waves of souls. And so essentially how this is going to work is we're going to see a lot of the downloads of people's own higher selves that we talked about, where more of the higher self's energy comes into the vessel to awaken the counterpart. And we're also going to see this as people leading those resting lifetimes that we talked about, people having these near-death experiences. When they get that option, they're going to be given the option, I should say, to allow another soul to come in so that they can have this divine union with their counterpart. So we're going to see people whose twin flames never incarnated on Earth, right? Where only one aspect of the energy is present. The other aspect is still in the spiritual. We're going to see them joining in the physical. We're going to see for some twin flames who have passed on or transitioned, who were already in union and then had a transition or moving into union with their divine counterpart, and then transitioned into the non-physical again, coming back. And we're going to see, like we said, just deepenings of those connections as more of the higher self's energy gets activated for those who are already present, but they're not quite fully there. They're not quite fully online at this time. And what this is going to do is this is going to create this really powerful wave of energy, because something that I was shown a very long time ago is when twin flames come into divine sexual union in this dimension, what happens is this beautiful portal of divine euphoric love and bliss is created. And so I'm seeing like all of these twin flames coming into divine union and creating this massive surge of energy that is one of the aspects of the ascension and the energies that really help push us toward that tipping point of ascension. So I thought that was really gorgeous and something really fun and exciting to share with everybody. It felt like it was the time to share that information. I look forward to continuing to delve into this topic and more topics with all of you as we continue to move forward. If there's anything else you want to know about, please let me know. I would love to continue to do more request videos. This was a request video. The shadow work video was a request video. Anything that you guys want more information on, please let me know. I am happy to create these videos for you, sharing everything that I've learned, whatever else wants to come through on these different topics. If you believe that you are a walk-in and you're struggling with integrating, you're struggling with finding your place here, or even if you're not and you're just looking for that extra guidance and support, I offer one-on-one coaching sessions. I offer energy sessions, tarot, astrology readings, you name it. If you are resonating with my energy and I can be of assistance to you, it would be my honor and privilege to do so. So like I said, or if I didn't, all that information is in the description box below. Also, in like this video, if you haven't yet, I'm trying to remember all the things I'm supposed to say right now. If you haven't liked this video, please do so. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to catch more videos like this, as well as all kinds of astrology content and tarot readings, all the fun, wacky stuff that we do here. All right. I'll talk to you soon. I love you all so much.